Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we wrestle the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for a poetry review. Dalton, what are we reviewing this time?
We are reviewing once more Robert Frost, After Apple Picking.
Yep.
See how excited I sounded about that?
Yep.
Yep. Would you like to read this first, or would you like me to?
Loser reads first.
What the hell? I guess I won. It's 1, 2, 3, shoot, you monster.
No, it's not.
Anyway.
Everything is delayed in your world, Dalton.
Do you say loser reads first?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
After apple picking. My two long-pointed ladders sticking through a tree toward heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it, and there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough. But I am done with apple picking now. Essence of winter sleep is on the night. The scent of apples I am drowsing off. I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight. I got from looking through a pane of glass. I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough, and held against the world of hoary grass. It melted, and I let it fall and break. But I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form my dream was about to take. Magnified apples appear and disappear, stem and blossom end, and every fleck of russet showing clear. My instep arch not only keeps the ache, it keeps the pressure of the ladder round. I feel the ladder sway as the bows bend, and I keep hearing the cellar bin, the rumbling sound of load on load of apples coming in. For I have had too much of apple picking. I am overtired of the great harvest I myself desired. There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down, and not let fall. For all that struck the earth, no matter what bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap, as of no worth. One can see what will trouble the sleep of mine, whatever sleep is. Were he not gone, the woodchuck could say whether it's like his long sleep, as I describe it coming on, or just some human sleep.
All right. Sorry about that. I caught the end of my book on my cuticle, and I thought I was about ready to like gush blood everywhere. I'm like,
I thought you were just picking your nails.
No. Okay.
How disrespectful to Mr. Frost.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Frost. You're the reason I bleed. After apple picking. My long two-pointed ladder sticking through a tree toward heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it, and there may be 2 or 3 apples I didn't pick upon some bough, but I am done with apple picking now. Essence of winter's sleep is on the night, the scent of apples I am drowsing off. I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass. I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough and held against the world of hoary grass. It melted, and I let it fall and break. But I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form my dreaming was about to take. Magnified apples appear and disappear, stem end and blossom end, and every fleck of russet showing clear. My instep arch not only keeps the ache, it keeps the pressure of a ladder round. I feel the ladder sway as the boughs bend, and I keep hearing from the cellar bin the rumbling sound of a load on load of apples coming in. For I have had too much of apple picking. I am overtired of the great harvest I myself desired. There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down, and not let fall. For all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap as of no worth. One can see what trouble will this sleep of mine, whatever sleep it is, were he not gone. The woodchuck could say whether it's like his long sleep, as I describe its coming on, or just some human sleep. Robert Frost.
So we got 3 good things, 3 bad things, a best line, a literary analysis, rating, and recommendation based on the text. 3 good things. Would you like to start, or would you like me to?
I will, and I will give Frost credit here. Frost is a master of imagery. Frost can paint a picture with his words that is very easy to see, and that's a good thing. 2, there are some layers here, which make this better than most Frosts. I'm about that. We can dig a little bit into this. And 3, this makes you ask questions about yourself and about reality. And that's an interesting thing to get into here. I'll get into my bad things as well, though, because I think there's some mirrors there.
Okay. 3 good things. 1, this is a very humanizing poem.
Okay.
You feel the humanity under this. 2, simple at first sight, there is complexity here.
Yes.
And 3, that feeling of fall into winter is something very clearly communicated.
Okay.
Right? That feeling of the coming winter.
Okay. Bad things. Frost is backed in this one with a weird structure and weird punctuation that kind of makes it a little wonky to read from time to time. Number 2, this isn't quite iambic pentameter, but it feels like it's trying to be, which makes me get a very Shakespearean feel from this, which I hate. Because then he goes into this like weird quasi-iambic pentameter, talking about dreams, things like that. I feel Shakespeare wholeheartedly, and it's not right to me. And number 3, this is often lost on those who see him as just a quaint nature poet, because there's more than just picking apples here.
Yeah. Number 1 for me on 3 bad things. This is another Frost, the rhythm of which causes me to stumble.
Okay.
The strangeness from looking through a pane of glass, I'm
weird.
not sure about. I've got a point on that for the discussion portion of this review, but it does strike me as strange. And 3, heaven.
Heaven.
Best line?
Best line, for all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap, as of no worth. I think there's a lot you can pull from that.
Okay. I went with a little bit more of a line that Dalton normally picks, something that I kind of like the rhythm and sound of.
Okay.
It melted, and I let it fall and break, but I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell.
Okay. This is a strange poem for Frost. Because when you get Frost, you usually think of he's walking in the woods, there's some kind of just nature scene, he's commenting upon it. This seems a little more dreamlike, a little deeper than most Frost, in my opinion.
Okay.
And just a little strange. There's a little glimmer of hope with this one here.
Okay.
If that's a good way of putting it. I can kind of get behind this here. However, have you ever heard the Kenny Rogers song, Just Dropped In?
I don't believe so.
It's one of those things where you hear all the words and you know what the words mean, but when you look at it, you're like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Okay.
Back to your panes of glass idea here, because that really did throw me off, because I assumed he was talking about his glasses at first, but it doesn't quite fit that he's talking about glasses. So you understand the words and what they're there for, but they're just not making sense when it comes together.
Yeah. On that line, I think, for me, for whatever reason, I think of Frost not as contemporary, but as a newer poet.
Okay.
When do you peg Frost?
Older.
Really?
Older poet, yeah. Frost has a very classic feel to me because of that rhyme pattern that he usually incorporates.
But for me, that could be up into the 60s.
Okay.
And that's, for whatever reason, in my mind, I sort of associate him with the men's movement.
Oh,
right, with Iron
bizarre.
John and stuff.
That's
like
bizarre.
This return to nature.
And with Frost, especially this poem here, this poem in particular, it has a very iambic pentameter feel to it. It's not an iambic pentameter, but it does. So you kind of get into that rhythm when you're reading, and then it cuts you off, and it just feels clunky. But because that exists, it gives me a very Shakespearean feel about this, and I don't like that. It's not right for me.
So when you say you think of him as older,
Yes.
so for me, whenever I think of Emily Dickinson, I think of 1860s.
Okay.
Like I have a decade I put her in. Whenever I think of Langston Hughes, I think of 20s, 30s, like that. What is it that you what decade do you associate Robert Frost with? Not by looking, but like when you think of it.
When I think about it, honestly, I would say turn of the century.
Really?
But maybe even like turn of the century, yeah, that's about right. Post Emily Dickinson, before Langston Hughes.
Okay. I think it is helpful to put this in a bit of historical context.
Okay.
That line about the glass.
Okay.
How strange do things look through glass? Right?
A little strange, distorted, a little wavy, perhaps.
Maybe. When you're talking about the type of glass that through which he might be looking,
Okay.
old glass from the 1800s, sags.
Okay.
It is thicker at the bottom than the top.
Okay.
It distorts anything you're seeing through it. This poem was published in 1914.
Okay.
Frost was born in 1874. Let me say that again. Frost was born in 1874. He was 12 when Emily Dickinson died.
Okay.
There was a man named Gale Borden. Ever heard of him?
No.
No one has, but
Of course not.
he invented condensed milk.
Okay.
Died the year that Frost was born. The guy who invented condensed milk died the year Frost was born.
Frost's been around for a while.
Millard Fillmore was the president. Our 13th president.
Okay.
Colorado joined the Union when Frost was 2.
Okay.
Colorado.
Westward ho.
Yeah, you don't really think of Colorado as the extreme
No,
west, do
no.
you? Like, 1874, Colorado was 2.
Okay.
Or no, he was 2 when Colorado joined the Union. Grant, the guy on the 50 of Civil War, Grant was president, I think.
Okay, and when I
Millard
said
Fillmore died, I think.
when I said turn of the century Frost, I do give it that turn of the century Americana. It's before the Roaring 20s were a thing, before that. But just briefly before that. Not all the way back to the 1860s when he was born. That is not where I would picture Frost. So that is interesting. But the man did live forever.
Yeah. Do you know who shares a birth year with Robert Frost?
Who does?
Harry Houdini.
Okay.
Onus Wagner. Do you know who Onus Wagner is?
I don't.
Whenever you hear about baseball cards, the most valuable baseball card of all time, one of the very first baseball cards was Honus Wagner.
Okay.
One of the man who was on one of the very first baseball cards of all time.
Was born alongside Frost.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, Herbert Hoover.
Interesting.
Winston Churchill.
Okay.
So the Civil War ended in 1865.
Okay, and Frost
Here we are in 2018. People who were alive when Frost was born, for us, it's like remembering when the United States withdrew from Iraq.
Okay.
That is yesterday, right?
Okay.
That is yesterday that the United States withdrew from Iraq. That's the Civil War ending for these people. It's just mind-boggling for me to look at these things. Also, that same time period, Michael Jackson died. Do you remember the death of Michael Jackson?
I do.
Yeah, that is the Civil War.
Okay.
To people who were around when Robert Frost was
So a
born.
little history on Frost there.
Just
which kinda-
context.
Context here kind of changes things. But let's talk about this poem a little bit more here.
Okay.
Because I know you love talking about apples in literature.
I'm so tired of talking about apples in literature.
But I think Frost here is commenting a little bit about his worth. Frost is always seems to be a man who is always perceived as older, and at this time the poem was written, he would have been 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
I consider that older, but that cusp of time.
First off, you can kiss an ass.
You're welcome. It's that cusp of time where you start to realize you're not as young as you once were.
You know you're nearly 30.
You're getting there. It's this point in time where you dislocate a rib and bitch about it for a month.
You're getting older.
Frost is watching the apples fall. And the falling of apples symbolized, death, things like that, the coming of fall, and a loss of innocence.
Do you know all the things I'd done by the time I was your age in life?
I don't think I want to know. But the apples are no longer worthless.
The things I'd seen?
They're not perceived as worthless because they're on the ground and they're bruised. They still have worth. They can still be picked up and taken to the cider mill. You can still get something from them.
So I think there's a difference between worth and value.
Okay, well, they still have value.
They still have value. I'm not sure they have much worth.
Oh,
They still have utility.
They still have utility.
There's something you can do with them. But
And I think that's the point Frost is trying to make here is although, we are getting into this older era of Frost, I'm coming of age, things are happening, I still have worth. You just have to find it. You have to find the utility in it.
Okay.
You're not a young man, but you're getting older, and you have to accept that. That's kind of what I'm getting from this here, besides the fact that I feel like it's a Midsummer Night's Dream. But that's what I've got from this.
So whenever you invoke apple, whenever you talk about apples, there's a lot of things going on there, right?
Okay.
So with Frost, Frost was born in 1874. He was 12 when Emily Dickinson died. He was 12 when Frost was born. Frost was born in 1874. with religion. Frost was a religious man.
Okay.
What is an apple in Christianity?
The forbidden fruit, possibly, if we're talking about that.
So it could be temptation.
Temptation, yeah.
But in the same story, on what tree were these fruits hanging?
The tree, wording for me.
Tree of knowledge?
Tree of knowledge, yeah. Of good and evil, is that what it is?
Knowledge of good and evil, sure, but knowledge.
Okay, tree
right?
of knowledge.
What is anything if it is not good or evil? Right?
Fair.
So is it a good idea, is it a bad idea? Right? Okay. So good and evil, in a looser term, in a looser context, can mean anything. We're talking about a poet. We're talking about a writer. We're talking about someone who spends a lot of time with knowledge.
Okay.
Could this be, he has so many ideas. I got so many poems, baby, that I write them when I'm sleeping.
Okay.
I got so many ideas, baby. They're on the ground. I throw some of them away to the cider mill.
Okay.
Is this gangster rap?
Gangster rap Frost.
Yeah, I got all this money. I got all these women. I got all these ideas. I got all these poems. Or is it temptation?
Okay. Oh, if you want to look...
I am so tempted by women, or whatever your vice may be, not to refer to women as always vices, but whatever your vice may be, I can't escape it even when I sleep. When I'm working, all I can see is women.
Okay.
When I'm sleeping, I dream of women. There's so many women there that I can't do anything with all of them.
Okay. If you want to go a little Freudian here and talk about like dreams leading to desire, he is wholeheartedly desiring to want to still be useful. I'm kind of mixing interpretations here. And if we're going with that idea that he is just so prolific because he's Robert fucking Frost, that he no longer has to pick the knowledge, he can just take out the outskirts here and that's fine, he's again saying, I don't need this. I don't need to struggle now at this point because I've done it all. I've seen it all. I can just pick up what you've left on the ground and make gold out of it.
Yeah, so for
you
me...
cocky son of a bitch.
That's my favorite reading of this.
Okay.
Because it seems... It seems very braggadocious,
and
right?
That's why you like it.
But has Robert Frost not lived since his death?
Well, if there's a man who can brag about poems, it's Robert Frost. So maybe he deserves that a little bit.
Right? So I don't know. So there's a lot of fun interpretations here that have nothing to do with one another.
Okay. I wholeheartedly just want to go to an apple orchard this fall. While everybody's picking apples, just walk up, grab one off the ground, and be like, fuck all of you.
You see this?
Robert Frost, leave.
Right.
There is some weird dream stuff going on here, and it makes me feel very Midsummer Night's Dream-esque. Where Frost is in and out of reality, he's back and forth, but he's seeing himself in a very realistic situation, while it's supposed to be this fantastic dream, things like that. So it gets a little weird. I'm not sure I can put a finger on as to why. And we end with a woodchuck.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something there that I'm not catching. I'm sure it's something extremely obvious that I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't like it.
Okay. I wasn't crazy about that either.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say about some apple picking?
Again, with Frost, this is very humanizing.
Okay.
You worked retail, yes?
Yep.
How many times... You worked with books.
Yeah.
How many times did you dream about putting books on shelves?
That's a thing, man. And you think it's a bad day at work after putting books on a shelf for 12 hours, you go home to sleep, pass out, dream about putting books on shelves just
for
to wake
8
up
hours?
to know you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
He's in that place.
Okay. So maybe that's where he's at.
You're falling asleep to dream of your work being done.
Okay.
Not only that, to dream of this harvest. So we talked about apples as a temptation. We talked about apples as ideas. We talked about apples as... help me out with the interpretation you were giving. Worth. What about apples as nourishment?
Okay.
Is this man so starved and so overworked, he was overtired,
Fair.
that he dreams about all of this work just being done so he can wake up and eat some apples?
It's possible. Apple picking is not the easiest of things. I mean...
You went vegetarian for a while, didn't you?
I did.
How hard was that?
Awful.
You had to be constantly eating, right?
I've said it for the longest time, it's the best way ever to lose weight because you open the fridge and you're like, nope, don't want any of that, I'll just be hungry.
Yeah.
But apple picking is hard work because, I mean, this man is not just on the ground just picking apples leisurely. He's doing this for profit, you would assume. He's doing this as work. He's climbing ladders. He's going up to the tops of the trees. He's reaching. He's stretching.
You got to
He's
find
carrying
the right place
loads
to put
of
it.
apples.
Yeah.
So this is work here. So that is interesting. I like that. I still don't like Robert Frost.
I don't like this. I don't like this poem necessarily. I think this is one of my favorite Robert Frost poems.
Okay.
Despite the fact that I get caught up on it, I can't read it through, and it's not even reading aloud. With this poem, I can't read it through silently.
I'm convinced that it's because it feels like iambic pentameter. You want to slip into that rhythm, but it's not.
I'll give you credit for that. I never picked up on it, but
Okay.
I'll definitely give you credit for that.
Hey, I'll take it. Not bad. As far as Frost goes, I give this one okay, but I'm sure you're going to give this a higher rating than I will.
99, no, 80 magnified apples out of 100.
80, really?
Yeah.
That's lower than most of your Frosts.
Yeah,
I give this 86 apples.
really, you highballed me.
I will give Frost some credit. This one's not as bad as everything else he's ever written.
What would you recommend?
A Dream Within a Dream, Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay.
Let's talk about Inception a little bit.
I am talking about the imagery here. I would go with The Red Wheelbarrow by William Carlos Williams.
Which is a great poem.
So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow.
Glazed with rainwater.
You know it
beside
all?
The white chickens. Come on. How can you not memorize that?
You've memorized one of the shortest poems in the English language.
You're welcome. That says so much about me. Ask me about any other poem I have memorized, because I don't. Anyway.
Very good.
If you like poems about fruit, we're here all week. Anyway, carry on. Finish it out here.
This is what we do. Hit the like button if you did like this sort of thing. It really helps us out here on the channel. Hit subscribe if you're looking forward to poetry reviews, short story reviews, novel reviews, read-alongs, any of that sort of thing, because that's what we do here. And if you would like to help us make more content, there is, as always, a link to our Patreon to be found in the description below.